who's actually going to get the most out of an 18-inch mill drill, and who would be better off putting their money toward a smaller benchtop or a full-size CNC. If you're on the fence about spending a couple of grand on a machine that sits in the middle of the workshop, you're probably wondering whether the price tag translates into real-world value or just a shiny spec sheet. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through the practical side of the Jet 18-inch mill drill, the kind of projects where it shines, the hidden compromises, and finally, whether it's worth the investment for an everyday maker. First off, the Jet JMD18 lands in that sweet spot between a hobby bench mill and a full-sized production unit. It's built around a one-piece cast iron column, which gives the whole rig a solid, almost immovable feel once you bolt it to a floor. In my shop, that stability mattered the moment I tried to cut an inch aluminum slot with a carbide face mill. The machine didn't shake, and the cut stayed true from end to end. That's the kind of confidence you need when you're switching between wood, aluminum, and even some low-carbon steel without constantly rezeroing the axis. Now, who should consider buying this? If you're a serious hobbyist or a small shop owner who needs to mill both wood and light to medium metal on a regular basis, the Jet 18-inch gives you the headroom to handle larger workpieces without constantly resetting. The 360-degree head swivel lets you approach a part from any angle, which is a huge time saver when you're building a custom table frame and need to mill shoulders on both sides without moving the workpiece. Likewise, the forward and reverse switch makes roughing passes quick and clean, perfect for clearing out material before you go in with a finish cutter. On the flip side, if your work is limited to occasional dovetail cuts or you mostly do furniture joinery on 24s, the machine might feel like overkill. The footprint alone takes up a good chunk of floor space, and the 2 HP motor, while plenty for most light metal tasks, can feel throttled if you try to plunge deep into thick steel. In that scenario, a smaller benchtop mill or even a high-quality router might give you the same results for a lower price and with a smaller footprint. Let's talk about the practical strengths that aren't just marketing buzz. The quick stop knob is a real convenience when you're doing a series of rough passes. Instead of hunting for a foot pedal, you can slam the knob and the spindle halts in a fraction of a second, preventing the dreaded runover that can ruin a workpiece. I've used it while cleaning up a mis-drilled hole in a CN-cut aluminum panel. The instant stop let me pull back the cutter before it gouged the surrounding material. The external depth gauge is another feature that saves you from constantly pulling the table out to read a digital readout. Because it's mounted on the column, you can glance at it while the spindle is still running, which is a small but noticeable workflow boost when you're doing repetitive pocketing cuts. The quick slide latch on the belt cover also earns points. Swapping belts between a 30-tooth and a 60-tooth pulley takes a matter of seconds, so you don't lose momentum during a job that requires multiple feed rates. However, there are trade-offs you need to be aware of before you click Add to Cart. The base taper, while advertised as a cleanup aid, actually means that the table can collect chips more easily than a fully enclosed sled. If you're running long metal cuts, you'll find yourself stopping every few minutes to brush away swarf that otherwise would have been contained. It's not a deal breaker, but it does add a small maintenance step that you wouldn't have with a fully enclosed column. Another subtle weakness is the belt tensioning system. The quick slide latch is fast, but it doesn't give you fine-grained adjustment. When I ran a high-torque cut on a stainless steel bar, the belt would slip just enough to create a slight chatter, forcing me to back off the feed rate. A more robust tensioner would have let me keep the same feed while maintaining smooth power delivery. For most wood and light metal work, this isn't a showstopper, but it's something to keep in mind if you plan to push the machine near its power limits. Noise is another practical consideration. The motor is housed in a steel frame, which means you'll hear a consistent hum that can be louder than a typical router. If your shop shares space with a home office or a quiet studio, you might need to schedule the heavier milling sessions during off hours or invest in some basic acoustic padding. Now, let's drill down to the value proposition. The price point sits comfortably in the mid-range for industrial-grade equipment, and you're essentially getting a machine that can handle a broader range of materials than a dedicated wood-only mill. The 360-degree head swivel and the quick stop knob are features that usually show up on higher-priced models, so you're